Hi everyone, I'm back again. And today I'm going to be doing the Synastry chart between Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love. There are a lot of people out there that think that she may have had him murdered. So I'm going to go over this whole chart and tell you exactly what I found. Now, her Venus conjuncts his midheaven, and that is actually a very nice placement because Venus is the planet of love and it's conjuncting his midheaven. So everyone saw out in the open the love between the two of them. The interesting part of this is that there are many asteroids in the background, and they want me to tell the story of what went on between the two of them, and I'm going to. In her natal chart, her Venus is conjuncting an asteroid called Tyche, and Tyche has to do with money. So she loves money. And it's in the 8th house, which rules other people's money. Now, she was in an interview with Barbara Walters, and she said to Barbara, I married a rich man. Well, this is validation right here. You would think that she would say, oh, I married the love of my life. But no, not from her. And Venus and Tyche conjuncting his midheaven also is conjuncting his Astarte asteroid, and that has to do with arguments. So there were arguments between these two. And it may have happened, the reasoning may have been through money because of Venus and Tyche, but there was other instances where they did get into arguments and people reported them, her shouting at him, and that sort of thing. Now, his Alma and Sirius also conjuncts her Venus. So he did love her because Alma has to do with soul and Sirius has to do with an unconditional sort of love that like a family sort of love that's very binding. Also, his child Dionysus and Jupiter and Karma conjuncts her moon 0 degrees. You can't get tighter than that. Now, Jupiter conjuncting Moon, that's also a very nice placement because it has these feel-good emotions, and it's a very emotional happiness involved between two people when Jupiter is conjuncting the Moon. And his child is conjuncting her Moon as well, and there's this innocence about him. He brought this childlike innocence into the relationship. Now, unfortunately, there's other asteroids there as well, and one of them is Dionysus. And Dionysus has to do with, it's the party asteroid, and typically it involves drinking, but Dionysus can also mean substance abuse. And it's conjuncting his Jupiter, so this magnifies these energies of that asteroid, and also his child, and there's karma involved here because that asteroid also conjuncts her moon. Now, his Valentine, Typhoon and Sedna, conjuncts her descendant. That's a very nice placement for Valentine to be because there's sacrificial love and devotion that he brought into this relationship. Unfortunately, again, there's Typhoon and Sedna. And Typhoon has to do with an overwhelming psychological events that happen, and it affects you strongly, and it's due to the separation when he passed, and a sudden separation and a betrayal with its overwhelming psychological events. And since it's conjuncting her descendant, that's what he brought into the relationship. Now I'm going to go back to her. Her maniac, Mad Hatter, Lachesis, Actor, and Nemesis conjuncts his moon 0 degrees and 2 degrees. That's really tight. This is one big cluster F of negative energies, and you don't want negative energies conjuncting your moon from anyone because it's going to affect you strongly. The moon is a very important luminary in a synastry chart. So her maniac, maniacal behavior, moodiness, and it's holding hands with Mad Hatter that has to do with craziness and drama. The The people around you are acting all crazy and there's drama involved, but you're blaming them for making, and then you act crazy, and then you're blaming other people for what you are actually projecting actually onto everyone else. And Luchesas is there as well, and that's a death marker. So conjuncting his moon, this signifies that there was a chipping away of his emotional stability little by little, and it ended up just ending. And her actor and nemesis is conjuncting his moon. This is just one of the worst conglomerations or commingling of asteroids that I've seen conjuncting someone's moon. And actor, well, that's pretty much self-explanatory. And nemesis has to do with a betrayal, a possible betrayal. And she did say that at one point she was thinking about cheating on him, and he found out about it, and then he overdosed on pills and ended up in a coma. So, like I said, make sure that you have nice asteroids conjuncting your moon from the other person. Now, his Nessus and Dragonera and Medea conjuncts her vertex, 2 degrees. Nessus has to do with abuse, and Dragonera is a drug asteroid specifically related to heroin. So now we have Nessus and Dragonera that has to do with drug abuse, and Medea has to do with revenge. So conjuncting her vertex, that's also a very important point in a synastry chart. And the Medea part came from his passing. That's the ultimate way that you can get revenge on someone if you're in a very not in a good place and there's depression involved, and I will get to that, but that's how he, I think, how he got the revenge. Her Atahalpa, Atira, and Lai conjuncts her north node natally. Now, Atahalpa has to do with drug addiction as well, and it's specifically related to cocaine. Atira has to do with money, and Lai, that's self-explanatory. And this is conjuncting her north node. Whatever conjuncts your north node in your natal chart, that'll be one of the basic themes in your life, the core fabric of where you're going or what the basic theme of your life is going to be. So for her, there's drug addiction here, and like I said, it has to do with cocaine. Now, she said that she never really snorted cocaine, but since her Lai's conjuncting her north node, I'm not going to believe anything that this lady says. And there's Atira there as well. So this ties back to her Venus conjuncting Tyche and her love of money. Vulcanus is there as well, and that has to do with explosions, brutality, or eruptions. And the interesting part of this is that his Vulcanus conjuncts her north node. So the basic theme of the relationship for her with him was eruptions, explosions. Now, her Melpomene conjuncts his point of fortune in the 8th house, and her Melpomene is in the 7th house, which rules committed relationships. Melpomene has to do with tragedy, and since it's conjuncting his point of fortune, the point of fortune has the ability to magnify the energies of whatever it touches. It's like a mini Jupiter. So this translates into tragedy from death in marriage. Okay, so moving forward. Her Melancholy, Vesta, Euterpe, and Escalus conjunct his vertex. Melancholy. There's sadness involved here. She brought sadness into the relationship, and there was Euterpe has to do with music. So now we have this. Well, obviously she was in the band called Hole, so that's pretty much self-explanatory. She brought music into the relationship. There was sadness, and Vesta has to do with devotion. So was she really devoted to him? Well, she was, because she pursued him in the very beginning of the relationship, and they got married, I think 3 or 4 months after they started seeing each other. But she was very persevering and devoted to getting him where she wanted him to be in her bedroom and under her thumb. And that is my interpretation of this. Also, her Chiron, Phaedra, conjuncts his Mercury 0 degrees. And Chiron has to do with pain. Phaedra has to do with suicide. And since it's conjuncting his Mercury at 0 degrees, this means that he told her, I think, he told her that he was thinking about committing suicide, or he didn't want to be in this world anymore. But he definitely, this is a very strong indication of the pain that he was going through and that he didn't want to be earthbound anymore. And like I said before, he had tried to commit suicide previously by swallowing a whole bunch of pills and then ending up in a coma. Now, his Eros conjuncts her Psyche, and traditionally this aspect is a very strong indication of twin flames. But in this case, I'm going to label this aspect in this chart as toxic twin flames. His rock and roll asteroid conjuncts her IC, and it's very interesting. I just had to throw that in there because the charts never fail to surprise me of when I start using asteroids where they end up. And the IC is at the bottom of the chart, and it's on the cusp of the 4th house. So he played a lot of music, I think, for her behind the scenes in their home. Her Luhai and Hell conjuncts his sun 1 degree. And the sun is a very important luminary as well. And Luhai has to do with like having magical qualities, hypnotic effects. And Hell has to do with hiding things. So I think that there was a lot of things that she hid from him and she didn't tell him. And that may have happened in the very beginning of the relationship. But she had a very strong effect on him and was Hell can also mean manipulative or, like I said, withholding information. His Blow conjuncts her Courtney asteroid 2 degrees, and Blow has to do with failures and mistakes, and it also has to do with drugs, usually cocaine. But in this case, it could be multiple, the failures and mistakes that he brought into the relationship and the drug addiction as well. And this is in the 7th house that rules rules committed relationships and marriage. Now, his Deprez conjuncts her south node 0 degrees. Whatever conjuncts your south node from the other person, you will accept those energies as normal, or you'll just be in denial about it. It will be like, oh, well, that's just the way things are. So in this case, Deprez, that has to do with depression. And it's conjuncting, like I said, her south node at 0 degrees. So she was like very either lackadaisical about it or didn't think it was that important or just thought of it as a normal energy in their relationship. Her Dejanira, Medusa, and Karma conjuncts his south node. So here again, she played herself out to be a victim, and she trapped him. It was like the spider getting the fly into the web, because that's the energies Medusa has. She lured men into her sphere and then turned them into stone when she got what she wanted. And she actually did say as well that she thought that it was her fault that he committed suicide. And that would go right along with the energies of Medusa. And Karma is also conjuncting his south node. So that's pretty much self-explanatory. His Mars and Ixion conjuncts her point of fortune at 1 degree. Mars, the war planet, also has to do with weapons, guns, knives, and Ixion has to do with murder. So Mars conjuncting his Ixion in his natal chart, That to me signifies murder through weapons, guns, fire. And it's conjuncting her point of fortune. This relationship and everything that he was going through was too much for him. And she even, like I said, she came out and said that she felt that it was her fault. And this is at 1 degree, so that's pretty tight. Her storm asteroid conjuncts his ascendant. And again, she brought a lot of storminess, and her typhoon coincides with this, overwhelming psychological events he brought in. She brought storms into the relationship. So this was not a bells and whistles sort of love. And that's all I have for today. And I hope you enjoyed this interpretation. And I'm going to be back soon with more Synastry charts. So hit the subscribe button to stay in the loop. Have a nice day.